Folks, what is going on? I have not filmed one of these videos in quite a while, but when I do, it's usually to share some sort of interesting realization that I'm going through or have witnessed, and that is also the case for today. Something very interesting happened to me just about half an hour ago, which was I was having a late breakfast. I opened up Spotify, or Spotify was open, listening to probably some Kanye West or something. And I noticed on the homepage that the Jordan Peterson podcast showed up. Now, I'm not sure if it's always been on there or perhaps they just put it on there, but for whatever reason, I've never listened to it on Spotify. I have listened to it, I think, once years ago. And anyways, I saw it on there and I got very excited because Jordan Peterson is probably I would say my biggest role model, or definitely top three with Jim Carrey and probably Kanye West, I would say, which I put no thought into that. Those are the first three names that came to my mind. But I've always really appreciated Jordan Peterson with his views and just with how he is comfortable to go against the grain to talk on things that are very important. So anyways, I got very excited to listen to this podcast. So I played an episode. I listened to it for I listened to an episode for about 20 minutes, and for whatever reason I wasn't really feeling it, and then I looked for another one and it was on perception, and I played that one, and I got about 15 minutes into it and something very interesting happened, which was that I came to the realization that the place that we are currently in, this new earth, this new world we are currently experiencing, and it's so refreshing to not have to have the conversation that we are experiencing a new world. I think there's so many people who have come to that realization, which is so beautiful to see, that we can actually now start talking about what this new world is about. And an interesting realization happened where understanding that this place that we're currently in, that I've been trying to navigate, where how I'm a part of it and why I'm a part of it and why it's such a big deal and so important to me. And what I realized of listening to this podcast episode, or in the middle of this podcast episode, of one of my biggest role models, was that way of thinking and the majority of the ways of thinking aren't, what's the word I want to use? They aren't relevant anymore in this world that we're currently living in. The ways of thinking from some of the best thinkers on our planet currently are not relevant for this new world that we're experiencing. And something very important came up for me, because I am big on reading and I'm big on taking courses and programs and researching and podcasts. And over the past couple of years, I felt that there really isn't a lot of new information. There's a lot of people that are trying to explain current ideas, or ideas that have already been come up with. Like take science, take a scientist, or someone even in Jordan Peterson's role of, we have a way of how we think about something, and that's the way it is. And it's more so about the research as to determining why it is. And I think what some of the smartest people, or not what I think, what I'm seeing out there, is the smartest thinkers out there are now having a conversation on how little we actually know. And if it's not on that topic, then I don't think that they're actually in the realm of what we're currently experiencing in the world. And so the realization I came to is that there's a whole world of thinking happening right now that is no longer relevant. That to try to get ideas from even some of the greatest people on the planet, that the place that we've gotten to, these ideas aren't important anymore. Not saying that they aren't smart, not saying that they aren't great ideas and great conversations being had, but the whole vibration of the level of how we're thinking is different. And having to have I would say, a tangible, logical solution for why things are the way they are, which is probably one of the reasons why we're so far behind in understanding how the world actually turns, is no longer the case, because the majority of the people, well, definitely not the majority, but a large growing number of people are aware and believe that there is more happening here that we need to start paying attention to. So even the most scientific, thought out arguments and conversations about why things are the way they are, they just aren't important anymore, because we have elevated our level of thinking. The 5 dimensions of the way of living that we're currently experiencing does not hold room for a conversation from a 3rd dimensional conversation. And what I got from this realization is one of the most empowering things in the world, is that it's time to stop looking for answers outside, and it's time for us, each of us, every one of us, to step up and fill the role of what this new territory is, and for us to start reaching inside to our full potential, to our greatest version of ourselves, and stepping forward as these leaders in this new world that is going to shape the way that we're going to start thinking in a new world. Because there is a major transition that has already happened, and now there is a landscape available where leaders are needed. And this is the most exciting and interesting thing in the world, because there's no, well, it's funny that I say this because I'll be sharing something soon, but there's no playbook for this. There's no guidelines, there's no instructions. We have entered a new world that is new to all of us. And it's up to us to come forward and to lead and to shape this into understanding it, making it what it's supposed to be, which is the beautiful reality that we're all supposed to be experiencing, and just navigate this. And we can't use old thinking and old ideology in the new world. That's why it's a new world. We need new ideas. We need a new way of thinking. We need to look for answers in new places. And it's such an interesting time to be alive. And what I've learned from this is it's time for me to put down books. It's time for me to put down podcasts and to start being the person to start asking myself, to look for these answers within myself as opposed to looking in these other places for them. And embracing my greatness and taking into consideration that I understand this new world that we're in, and essentially just going inside to share the experience of what this is and what we want it to look like. So, I don't know, take from that what you will, but what an incredible realization.